Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pressing Matters. I'm Scott. Thank you for tuning in today and thank you for your support. Today I'm going to be talking about the Steely Dan UHQR in comparison to a couple of other pressings that I've heard, and I'll tell you all the details in just a moment. Before I get started, if you are new and haven't already, please consider subscribing. We are inching towards our goal of 10,000 by the end of the year. With your help, I can get there. It's really important. Please hit like, subscribe, and notification. Thank you so much for doing that. And thank you all who have been supporting the Pressing Matters through using the Amazon affiliate storefront that's listed in the description box of every video. This has been very successful, so I'm very pleased that you guys are utilizing that as well. So let's get on to the UHQR and comparison to the Cisco, the MoFi, the original AB, and the Canadian yellow pressing. I collected all these pressings with my friend Oswaldo. I listened to them at his place, and I listened to the two top contenders at my place afterwards. I hadn't heard the UHQR on my own system at that point, so I just brought it over sealed. We cleaned everything, and I decided to do this blind because we had two people, and I said, let's try it. I am a little invested in the UHQR. I bought one copy and I mistakenly forgot to cancel a second order, and I have two. I don't know what I'm going to do with the other one. I'm going to probably send it back, but it's not like it's going to become an instant collectible because there's 30,000 of them. So you have plenty of time to decide if you want the UHQR, but by all reports, people are loving it, and I wanted to find out for myself. And I didn't want to be swayed by the fact that I have a heavy investment in the UHQR. So I said, hey, this will be fun. Let me just put on a blindfold, you play the records, and let's see how it goes. So his system is listed in the description box below. I will say what I learned from all of this, and I did a lot of different configurations at my own home, that with anything in audio, it's all system dependent, it's listener preference dependent, and you can get vastly different results on different systems. So that is why for these big shootouts, I provide files for you to download. In this particular one, Oswaldo prepared files for Black Cow and Peg. There are 5 different pressings. You can go to the description box. I suggest you download them, and if there is any way to play them through your main system to hear the differences. That will give you the best impression of what this sounds like on your own system in your own room. And that's so important, and I found that out with this shootout. So I was blindfolded. He played all 5 copies, one track, Black Cow, to start with, and then Peg as well. I kept listening notes. As soon as I knew I wouldn't be able to see anything, I took it off and made some notes for each one, kind of ranking them in terms of what I liked. And one stood out. One was very, very close to it. And 2 were definitely off the list for me. And that was the Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab, the original one, from, I don't know who mastered that one. I think Stan Ricker, but that one is notorious for the famous smiley face EQ, and it was so obvious. And it's funny because I've loved that record, back when I bought it in the 80s. But as the system gets better and better, those pressings become less and less enjoyable because of this boost in the treble and boost in the bass and suck out in the mid-range. It's famous. I didn't believe it at first. I said, people are just over criticizing it, but it's really true. The better your system gets, the less it sounds good. It's very tizzy in the top end. It's almost grating how bright it is. And vocals, like Donald Fagen's vocals, don't have body. They just sound a little threadbare. And it's a shame because it has beautiful separation and clarity and quiet vinyl, but it definitely could be improved upon. The other one that dropped off the list for me was the Canadian Canadian yellow pressing. I wasn't really aware of this. He had it, so we threw it in. And to me, it sounds like it's from a generation even further removed from the original. So that one didn't strike me at all as worthy to be in the final listening sessions. The OG was very, very good, but I could tell which one it was. It was a little more compressed than the two audiophile ones that were left, the Cisco and the UHQR. Still a great sounding record, and I think that is the best pressing of it, the AB. But it really kind of boiled down to the Cisco and the UHQR. Now in the blind listening, when a particular one came up, I was like writing notes furiously. I was like, this is beautiful, lush, beautiful. I couldn't imagine it being bettered. And the one that came in a little bit behind it was a little more bright and analytical and punchy and dynamic, very, very good as well. I was surprised because I thought the one that I really went crazy over would be the UHQR, but it was the Cisco in his system, in his room, on that system, you know, with that level of resolution, with that one track. And I have to stress that this was really about Black Cow, but also Peg as well. The Cisco on his system presents beautifully. It's lush, beautiful, tube-like, and never grating and never harsh, just a lovely sound, beautiful separation. You know, it sounds like a great pressing from Kevin Gray, mastering from Kevin Gray. The UHQR on his system in his room came across a little too much, a little too, in a word he used, pyrotechnic. And I was surprised because from everything I gather about these pressings, and the raves are in for the UHQR, I was like, I tend to like lush, tubey sounding records. So, you know, I was afraid, like, maybe I'm going to have to declare the Cisco the winner. And, but again, keep in mind that this is in a system that is, I mean, his system's going to be listed in the description box, but the turntable and cartridge alone are 2 times what I have invested in my system, at least. A $20,000 turntable. A Koetsu cartridge is probably $5,000, I don't know, but it's, you know, it's very, very revealing. And for whatever reason, and there's no right or wrong, in his system he preferred the Cisco. And I preferred the Cisco for the track I heard as well, Black Cow. So I was like, you know, I need to get to the bottom of this, and I need to hear everything from these 2 pressings on my own system. The problem was, I have been experimenting with upgrading my speakers, and I have a loan of a speaker just to try out, a used speaker. It's a JM Labs model. I'll give the model in the description box. And it's been in the system for about a week or 2. And honestly, it was, from the moment I got it in, I was like, this is too bright. And you know I hate bright. It's too bright. The tweeter feels metallic sounding, and everything has a tip up in the treble, and that I don't like at all. Hearing the Cisco and the UHQR on this particular setup just emphasize that fact. The lush, beautiful sound on the Cisco was tipped up to the point where I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought. The UHQR was just too much with these speakers. So out went those speakers. I already knew they were going out, but this kind of just sealed the deal. I went back to my original configuration, which is not perfect, but I have, well, let me tell you what I'm listening on. The Hanna ML, the basis 1400 turntable with a Rega 300 arm. The Modrite PH 9.0 phono stage, which is tubed. The integrated tube amp KN A50T. And the ELAC Debut 6.20. I've always had this set up with a sub, and I've been criticized by my friends and people I trust that the sub has to go. The sub was something I picked up. It's really an AV sub. It's not an audiophile sub. It's DefTech, and I'm kind of embarrassed to admit it, but it served the purpose when I had the MMGs. They needed some bass response, and that kind of helped at that time. But it's always been a problem of integrating this amp with the speakers. Now, I left it in place when I got the ELACs. I figured, you know, my first audition with the ELACs, they didn't sound like they had deep enough bass. I kind of expected that. It's a bookshelf speaker. And so I hooked it back up just like I had the MMGs, and I had it that way ever since. It's always been an issue, though, integrating the bass with these speakers because of the quality of that sub and the miles of extra wiring that it takes to do a speaker level hookup. So I got the JM Labs out. I listened to both pressings with my normal setup with the sub, and I was like, this sounds better. Okay. Any brightness or harshness or forwardness was gone, and the UHQR really came into its own. It sounded beautiful, punchy, clear, dynamic, with wonderful space and a very precise attack on the instruments, a realistic sound overall. The Cisco still retained its positives, which is lush and beautiful and a little set back. They're almost on different planes. I enjoyed both, but now I could see, now I started to understand, okay, I understand now why people are raving about the UHQR. The next thing I did at the suggestion of Oswaldo was take out the sub completely, get rid of all that extra wiring and go directly into the ELACs and just see how it sounds. I did that, and I was so surprised. I was like, wow, something happened to these speakers in the last several years that I've had them. The bass has deepened, and I didn't miss the sub whatsoever. It had adequate bass, I mean, for my listening purposes in my room. And I like bass, you know, I love a deep bass response, but and I thought I needed the sub for it, but I really didn't. So now I have a direct feed right from the amp to the speakers without all the extra wiring, and it sounded great. A really good platform to really zero in further on these two pressings. So then I listened to the Cisco. It sounded great, it sounded beautiful, it sounded lush, it sounded... Everything that I love about Aja is there on that pressing. It, like I said, the plane of it, and I match these in level to about 80 dB at peaks. It just seems a little bit laid back, just a touch compared to the UHQR. The UHQR is vibrant and precise and clear, and there's all kinds of space and information that is not rendered on the Cisco with such a visceral way. The UHQR, when I put that on afterwards, it was a perfect listening experience. It sounded beautiful. And I was like, that's why, okay? It's system dependent. It really is. And this gave me appreciation for when you're listening to a subjective review like this, you know, you have to keep in mind that many people's rooms aren't treated. They have speakers that might be bright. They might have a highly resolving analytical system, and different pressings are going to sound better in different systems. There's no right or wrong, but I can say the UHQR is an unqualified success. It is amazing. And yeah, you hear things that maybe you hadn't heard before, like they were there, but they're just brought out a little bit further, but not to the detriment of music. Some could say the Cisco is more musical, and I did think that at first before I did all these changes, and when I listened to it at Oswaldo's, it seemed more musical, more relaxed, more beautiful. But when I finally got this all settled out, I felt like the UHQR bettered it in clarity, in separation, in the quality of the vocals, the background vocals, the realism of the sax, the keyboards. Everything is there to hear, and it's just a pleasure, and never ever veers into something that I would find unpleasant, like a little too high, a little too forward. Just a perfect job. Bernie did a beautiful job, and there's no question that this is probably the definitive pressing. The comments about the Cisco over the years, I think they're a little overblown. It's a great sounding pressing, and if you have that, you might think twice about upgrading. But if you don't have either of these, the Cisco is probably $200 to start, and that's a lot of money. And you probably would go for this in this case. Why not? It's here. It's beautifully pressed. It's one of the best UHQRs I've seen yet. The pressing job was excellent. Everything about it is beautiful. The jacket is stunning. And the mastering is probably the best this has sounded yet. So I can give a thumbs up for the UHQR. Absolutely, it is stunning. And that is how I feel about it. Listen to the files and make a judgment call for yourself. There's also a video you can watch where everything is in A, B, C, D, E comparison, and you get a rapid fire A, B for each song. So, or actually for Black Cow. So check that out as well. But until next time, I'm Scott for the Pressing Matters. Have a great day.